All right, everyone, hello, and welcome to the first ever SoulCast, brought to you by the Video Gaming Federation. Very happy to bring this to you. A little bit of new, at least to me. We have the Tekken podcast that we do, which is usually character-specific, but we're kind of branching out and doing the Caliber thing. But kind of as a little introduction for all the listeners out there who've never heard of us, don't really know who I am and who our guests are or any of that stuff. Hopefully this will enlighten you a little bit. So with the Tekken podcast that we do, we've been doing character specific. So every podcast we do a different character, and we bring usually a high-profile guest on and chat about that character and kind of give all the newbies out there a little know-how on how the character works. But since Soul Calibur 5 is so new, we kind of wanted to do some interview stuff first, get some big names on, kind of talk about the scene, where Calibur's going, and so on and so forth. So we're going to do that for a few episodes first before we actually start getting into the nitty-gritty character details, which should be really fun because I always enjoy those podcasts. And most people who listen to them enjoy it and learn something. So that'll be exciting when we get to that. But before all of that, we do have to get through this initial run of the little interview ones. So I am Scott, a.k.a. Zhang on the boards. I've been around the community for a long time, mostly Tekken, but I do have a little bit of a presence over on SRK. I'm from Iowa, as is my co-host, who I'll introduce here in a moment. But yeah, Tekken came into the scene a little after 2000, so I've been in it for over a decade. But I did this Caliber 2 thing. Didn't really play Caliber 3 or 4 much, but I'm really enjoying 5. It's a lot of fun so far, and everybody seems to be having a lot of fun with it, so hopefully it won't die anytime soon. But that's pretty much it for me. I've been around the block, been to a few EVOs, hosted a little major event here in the Midwest, do monthlies and whatnot. So just kind of your run-of-the-mill tournament organizer, I imagine you would call me. But so with that being said, let me introduce my first person on the podcast this time, my co-host, lovely, the beautiful Billy Ship. How's it going, dude?
It's going all right.
So I guess just kind of run with it and do what I do and tell the people who you are, where you've been, and what's up.
All right, well, my name is Billy. I go by the moniker of Pure Funked on the boards, or Funked. Back in the Caliber 2 days, I used to go by O or Zero, depending on whatever you went by. I've been playing the Caliber series since 2002, back when I first traveled to Chicago and met all the Chicago players, and so kind of ran with them for a while, and then I kind of stopped playing Caliber whenever Caliber 3 came out, and didn't really pick it up Caliber 4, but hopefully we'll pick up a new leaf in Caliber 5 and get rolling with that. Having quite a bit of fun at the game, going to some tournaments, traveling, so it should be lots of fun.
Excellent, excellent. So so now that we got our scrubby asses out of the way, it's probably time to introduce our high-profile guest, if you will, Mr. Bibulus. So how is it going, dude, if you're still there?
Oh, what's good? Tim Fantasy, a.k.a. Bibulus. Yeah, I'm in there. But, yeah, I've been playing Caliber competitively since, well, I've been playing Caliber since, like, the Caliber 1 arcade release. I found the competitive scene at the end of Caliber 1, been playing competitively since 2, hit the arcades, so it's been about a decade for me, too. And lately, I'm a competitive player, commentator extraordinaire, and yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's an excellent way to segue kind of into my first question, because I mean, I'm sure that anyone who's on 8-Way Run, I'm sure they've seen your name, Big Admin Bibulus, whatever they want to call you. But final round was just this past weekend, and you mentioned the commentator role. I would watch as much of Caliber as I could at final round, and caught you and I believe Hate. I think he was Hates was the other one that was with you for most of that. Yes. And I'm not sure who they swapped you out. There were 2 other guys that I saw commentating as well, and they swapped you and Hates out with them, but I'm not sure who they were. I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me.
I'm pretty sure if it was finals day, that would be Filthy Rich and Markman. Filthy Rich being the Namco community manager, and Markman being the guy who reinvented the arcade stick.
Yeah. No. Actually, it was the guys. It was two white dudes. It was the day before. So no, I know who Markman and Filthy Rich are. It was two random white dudes.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure about that because when I got off commentary on Saturday, that's when I was playing in pools. So I'm pretty clueless. I have no idea who was up there.
Well, one of the things I wanted to start with was Final Round in general. Obviously, well, not obviously if you're not used to the tourney scene, but Final Round is a big tournament in America, and as far as I'm aware, with the exception of maybe MLG, if you want to consider that a fighting game tournament, it's the second biggest, second to Evo. So it's a pretty big deal. So how? And from what I saw, the turnout for Soul Calibur was pretty good. I think it was over 250 entrants for Soul Calibur, which is really good for a 3D game. It's been a long time since I think a 3D game has broken the 250 mark. So how was the reception at Final Round?
It was over 250, and that's actually the reception of Final Round was pretty nice. I mean, the tournament was kind of run janky because they had an issue with the way they printed out the brackets, because I'm not sure what tournament software they were using, but they printed it out as one big bracket and they segmented it into pools. But for whatever reason, it cut you off if you were in the margins. And they didn't realize that until they actually started running Pool 1, so they had some logistical issues. But aside from that, it is actually the biggest Soul Calibur tournament ever. Period. End of story.
Nice. And,
yeah, I mean, regardless of what happened in pools, or some people were bitching about seeding, but any way you cut it, there's always the pool of death. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So was that the...
No, I love that event. I've been to the Final Round.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was that the the big holdup on the entire tournament? Because I know that it got a big delay for some reason. No one really ever explained it. They just said, "Oh, we're kind of having delays." Was that it? Was that the main cause, the bracket issue, or was there something else entirely?
There were a few delays. There was one point where we were waiting on Jason Cole who was playing in KOF, and as we all know, KOF takes a while to finish, and we were waiting on Cole for, I want to say, a good 2 hours. It got to the point where we were literally holding up top 5 in the pools because Cole was in his second round of losers. Which was a hell of it's just a multi-platform logistics thing. I mean, it's something you can't avoid. Now the tournaments are so big.
Gotcha.
So it just comes with the territory. I mean, that, and you have to admit, in the past few years, fighting games have really been blowing up. So the whole "it worked before, it should work again" doesn't always hold up that well. So the grassroots approach, it works, but at the same time, there are transition issues. Yeah. So, I mean, the numbers we're getting are pretty ridiculous, though. I'm pretty sure there were over, I think it was close to 1,000 badges got sold.
Wow.
For Final Round. It was absolutely, I was talking with Larry about the numbers, Shin Blanca, the guy that runs the event, and the numbers were absolutely insane. They had, 400 plus for Street Fighter and Marvel, and then 250 for Soul Calibur, and KOF broke, I think 150, almost 200?
Yeah, I know people are getting pretty hype about KOF. That seems to be the main go-to 2D game.
Yeah, fun to watch, but I don't know if I want to play it.
Speaking of fun to watch, so obviously all the Calibur players were hyped for Calibur at Final Round. Was everyone else? Did they seem to enjoy it, or was it one of those, oh, the Calibur players are playing, we're going to go jerk off now?
No, actually, I've really liked the reception we've gotten from them. A Final Round, it was kind of we're going to watch our own stuff, and then once it got towards, top 5, top 8, everyone was face forward looking at the big screen. And even then, it was I was at a tournament yesterday in South Jersey. They were running Marvel and Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and literally, when Soul Calibur, I think it was top 3 were going on, they stopped playing the other tournaments because everyone was watching. They were calling matches. They were yeah, give us 5 minutes.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome.
These are 2D players who like don't even play the game. Like I was talking with Noel Brown, and he's like, "Yeah, I just don't feel like I could pick the game up. It'd take me too long to learn. I'd rather like not." But I mean, but he was still interested. He still found it like fun to watch, and I really find that amazing.
Absolutely, because I know like at least from a Tekken player's perspective, like that's the big problem that Tekken has. Like, you know, people watch the finals and they see Bob, and they are bored as shit. And no one ever is like, why would I play this game? It's so boring. It's the same characters in top 8 every year, blah, blah, blah. So I really hope Caliber doesn't fall into that pit of despair that Tekken.
No, actually, I don't think that's possible with Caliber, because the one thing that I really have to say the developers got right with Soul Calibur 5 is they made a game that is nearly impossible to lame out. Like, if one person wants to get in there and take initiative, you can't lame them out. Like, if you're going to try and be lame and predictable and just win over, like, brute efficiency and defense, there are too many ways to overcome that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that guard break is still there. At least I believe it was present in Soul Calibur 4. But, and then, yeah, your supers and whatnot. And that's, it's pretty, I would say, accurate. I never see anybody getting lamed out, at least not yet. So unless there's something out there we don't know about. Yeah,
well, the closest thing that we had to that in the top end of the final round was RTD versus Wing Zero, and that was just them trying to space each other and bait each other. And the only reason that really looked lame was because they were both determined to lame it out. And when you get into that situation, no one's really taking initiative. No one wants to take that first risk. So, I mean, it is what it is. Like, if both players are determined to just sit back and, like, be like, are you going to whiff? No, are you going to whiff? And just, like, try and push it back and forth like that, that can happen. But as long as someone wants to just, like, even just so much as, like, step up and block, that's enough to force someone to do something in a situation like that.
Nice. So, with all of that being said, just kind of your own personal opinion, since I guarantee you've been to more Caliber tournaments than I have so far. Do you see Caliber as continuing to grow, or do you think that maybe it's going to have this eclipse and then people are going to shrink away from it?
That's hard to tell. It's all based on the community. I mean, there's things that are going to happen. Some people are just going to play the game. They're not going to like what they find, and they're going to stop playing. I mean, like a classic example would be a guy I know. You probably heard of the Realist. He's a Tekken player. He lives up in Connecticut, Massachusetts area now, I think.
Do know Mark.
And he pretty much hates the game. Yeah, he pretty much hates the game because he can't hold the block button. Like, he feels like his idea of defense is, I should be able to hold the block button, and me holding the block button should be able to force you to do something. And just not the way the game is designed. Like, if that's your idea of defense, you go play Street Fighter. Go play Tekken. I mean, the game is not meant to be for everybody. So, I mean, naturally, there's going to be people that come along, and they're not going to find what they want. But at the same point in time, if I feel like the game appeals to a lot of the people that are kind of looking for a new game, in that it encourages you to take an active role in defense and offense. You can't play it lame, and there is a lot of depth. Like, there's no one, like, there's so many moves and so many useful moves at that. It's like there's no one way to play a character. Where, like, you run into, like, take an example of, like, Mishimas. You could pretty much say there is one effective way to play, like, Kazuya. And, like, you could try and do other stuff, but it's just not going to be as effective overall. I mean,
interesting.
Or maybe I'm just talking on my ass here.
No, well, I mean, I guess the Kazi example is definitely for sure. He doesn't really. It's all about the wave dash, so and the God Fist. Everything centers around that. So, okay. So it sounds like, you know, you're optimistic about it. You know, you're going to have some sort of I don't even know, grasping for a word for it, but some people, you know, the little fringes who just aren't going to accept it no matter what. But for the most part, it sounds, you know, like you're optimistic that the scene itself is going to grow, and you know, people are going to enjoy the game because just of the way the game is and the way it was designed. And I can, at least from my perspective, what I've been reading and watching, I mean, it sounds like people are really, really liking the game. There is not a bunch of, except for, I guess, the realist, there's not a bunch of hardcore hate out there for Caliber. So I don't know. I guess we'll just kind of see where it goes. But I was just curious, like, if based on your final round experience, and you said I think you went to Winter Brawl as well. So I didn't know if like maybe there was some stuff that you were seeing there that was like a dead giveaway that the scene was gonna.
No, like I probably should have touched on this earlier. Judging by what I was like, me talking to people who weren't in the tournament, just that they have like general interest in picking it up, and because I'm like a lot of the people in the local scene, they point to me as the guy you should talk to if you want to learn the game. So I guess. I mean, I've been getting a lot of 2D players who are just like, yeah, I'm interested. Can you help me pick it up? Blah, blah, blah. What do you think of this, that, and the other thing? And it's really refreshing. And especially considering these are guys that aren't already entered. It's like if we can build on the numbers we have already, it's going to be pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because there's no Tekken players around here, but it seems like there's some people that will play Caliber, which is always nice to have people to be competitive with.
Local scenes are amazing.
Yeah. So, awesome. Well, that's, I guess we can just kind of springboard from that into kind of a more general question, so to speak. So we just got done with final round, and Winter Brawl was a while away. I think I know Power Up is next month, and then I think CEO. I don't remember what the exact dates for CEO are, but I know that's not too far away. So, like, what sorts of, most games have their hotspots in the U.S. Like, if you were going to look at, say, Street Fighter, for example, SoCal is going to be up there. You have the New York scenes and so on. What sorts of hotspots are you seeing in Caliber? Like, because I know, obviously, there were a lot of Atlanta players at Final Round, but where's, like, the real hubs for this game?
Okay. See, I'm an East Coast player, so I know, like, I've been around for a long time, so I know most of the East Coast hubs, and generally you're talking, like, New York, like the New England, Massachusetts, Connecticut area has, like, a couple of little cliques that you can find, and then Jersey and Philadelphia as well. There are a few nice scenes in there, like they got the South Jersey scene, there's a Central Jersey scene, and then as you start to branch out from there, if you live on the West Coast, San Francisco area is amazing. They have a couple of really nice groups of players you can get in with up there.
Wow, the Bay Area.
And where else would there be? Yeah, Bay Area is huge. They've been big into the game since Soul 3. Like Hates is out there, Crazy CD. There's all sorts of people. I could just list names for like hours, but I'll spare you guys that one. Where else would be a good place to learn? Atlanta. Naturally, Atlanta is pretty big on the Caliber right now from what I can see. And it depends. There's like little pockets of players everywhere. And even if you don't have a local scene, the online for this game is absolutely amazing.
I was actually talking about that not too long ago because, like, with Tekken, it's just absolutely atrocious. And Mortal Kombat is and Marvel's garbage too. But I just for fun, randomly, I tried online for Caliber, and it wasn't. I was pleasantly surprised. It was not. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad, like nearly by any other means, if you compare it to any of these other games.
Yeah, no, I really feel like me placing top 8 at Winter Brawl is a testament to how good the online is, because I was kind of sick beforehand, so I didn't get a ton of time to go out and practice with my buddies. Like, I mean, I do live right in the middle of, like, Soul Calibur Central, like, right in the middle of New York, New Jersey, Philly, and I go out and I play with all those guys rather frequently, but I haven't. And I had gotten most of my experience going into that tournament online, and I still managed to make it out of pools.
Nice. Well, yeah, I remember you mentioned the top 8 at Winter Brawl. Just out of curiosity, and I don't want to bring up any bad memories, but how did you do at Final Round?
Final Round was not my day to win. It's just
that happens.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm not the most consistent player ever. Like, I feel like on a good day, I can beat just about anybody, but final round was not a good day for me.
One of those off.
It was just, yeah, I don't know. Something about Atlanta. Every time I go to Atlanta, I can never perform well. Like, whether it was like Soul Calibur 3, Soul Calibur, oh no, I didn't go there for 2. But yeah, I went there for 3, and then in 4 I didn't do that well. When I went there for Street Fighter, I want to say like 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year where I entered Street Fighter, I didn't do that well either.
It's all Mick.
Something about Atlanta, and something in the air, I think.
He's all yelling,
can't play well.
"Oh man, ATL, solid."
Yo,
solid
that guy.
Like, those guys crack me up, man. They're so fucking funny.
Oh god. Yeah.
So okay, well, it sounds like
yeah, the ATL guys get pretty loud.
Yeah, that's such an understatement.
Like E8, a whole bunch of the Atlantic guys came to Iowa, and all you heard was ATL ho and how solid stuff was.
Everything is solid.
Oh, everything.
I thought we were like the Table Factory.
Oh man. Okay, so I guess we got the hotspots. So the final round obviously was a big tournament. So aside from Omega, who obviously won it, what are some other like big names out there that you're watching that you're like, okay, this person's gonna make a splash. They're gonna make it, a run once Evo comes. Who are those players?
Let me think for a second. There's some players that weren't doing that well in the final round, and there were some players that just blew my mind. Like, what was that guy? Ryujin. That guy blew my mind. He beat the guy that won Winter Brawl at the losers finals of his pool.
Oh wow.
And yeah, he was, from what I was told, he's a DOA player from Michigan.
That's random.
Like, this is a guy who doesn't have a background in Soul Calibur. He doesn't have a local community, as far as I know. So he's pretty much an online warrior. Shows up and beat the guy who won Winter Brawl.
That's
like,
pretty.
That blew my mind. I want to see what that guy can do. And yeah, but no, Link, I'm still looking forward to seeing. I want to see who else hates, especially because he's one of those guys that runs off matchup knowledge. So the more time you give him with the game, the better he's going to do. And he actually had a really close match with Omega in his pools. He was in the pool of death. It was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure his third match was Omega. It was something dumb like that.
It's pretty rough. That
and
that's
then
the way that fighting games work.
Yeah.
So.
Yo, that's it. Yo, you have no idea. In Evo 09, what was it? It was 4th and 5th place. The two Hildy players in the top 8 had to play each other second round. How's that for silly?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But no, let's bring it back to Soul 5. Players I'm looking at, KDZ, naturally. He's my boy, but he's messing with some new characters, so I feel like he might not do so well, but once it comes to Evo and he's really had time to step it up with some newer characters that he's working with, I feel like he's going to blow some people's minds. And then, who else? Hawkeye, I was surprised that guy did that well. I mean, he was a relatively new player in Soul 4 and in Soul 5. I mean, I expected it to be solid. I didn't expect him to make it to winners finals. And especially when he beat Thuggish, because Thuggish, he was like the Soul 3 legend. Like, I'm pretty sure that guy went through the entirety of Soul 3 and only lost, I want to say, 3 tournaments.
Yeah.
It was something outlandish like that. Like, he took second at Nationals to Omega. And then the last 2 tournaments, he didn't win. But that was it. Everything in between, he won first place the whole way down.
Yeah, we see him on
I'm interested to see what that guy's going to do.
We see him on a very random basis because we know a lot of like the old school Chicago players, and when he started getting into Caliber 3 and whatnot was about the time that everyone else was making an exit. So we met him that time, and I don't know, Billy, you probably stay in touch with him more than I do, but I catch him at random moments every once in a while.
I first met Damien back in, I want to say 2003, back when Spencer or Fetz held like tournaments in his apartment all the time that like WC Maxi would run. And we went there. He was just like a random scrub that would show up and get like go 0-2. So it's like really amazing to see how people can go from like bottom of the barrel to being the best of the best. And like, yeah, it really surprised me because like Damien was just like an arcade scrub at the time. And then he like really stepped up his game whenever at the end of 2, beginning of 3. So I like Damien a lot. I always see him randomly like...
We all got to start somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt. I was a Conquest player back in the day, so I guess.
Good old Conquest. So many dumb memories.
Yeah, you'd actually be surprised how common that same song is with Tekken players. Like, there was that whole, like, we don't like Tekken 4. What else can we play? Soul Calibur looks interesting.
That's exactly what happened,
That happened pretty much across the country.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So many people hated Tekken 4.
Yeah, that's how we got a lot of the New England players. That's how we got, like, yeah, that's how we got the North New Jersey crew from, like, back in the Soul 2 days. There was a lot of Tekken players that crossed over, and now they have gone back to Tekken because they don't like Soul 3. So, like, the reverse happened.
I think you're going to see a lot of the same thing happen with Caliber 5, though, because not only is Caliber 5, at least in my opinion, just a way better game than at least 3, but, like, so everyone is just bored with Tekken. You know, everyone's waiting for Tag 2 to come out, and even though Tekken 6 is really good, everyone's bored with it. It's been out for a couple years. People are just kind of tired of it, and they want Tag 2, but since we don't have Tekken Tag 2, we got to find something to play. So I think you're going to see a lot more of those Tekken guys jumping over to Caliber 5, which is good because then the scene can only grow. But
yeah, I look forward to it. Tekken players have always been solid. They have those strong fundamentals. Because Tekken really runs off fundamentals.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't remember what you said. There's something that sparked this in my mind, but we had a player. He's kind of walked away because he's got the IRL stuff going on with his job and whatnot. But he's a Chicago player, and he plays Craig Marduk. But like he kind of came out of nowhere. And Tekken is it's a pretty intensive game technically speaking, and he just came out, and like the first month he had been playing, had never played a fighting game ever before, and just was making a splash and beating all these big name players. But and his name is John, and I don't know if anybody's heard of him. His forum name is Solus, but I think a lot of people know him, at least in the Tekken scene. I don't know if he really pals around with any Caliber players, but God, I think you just mentioned something about who was it? It wasn't Wing Zero. It was somebody, or maybe it was, who was just like an online-only guy, and then came and beat the winner of Winter Brawl. So same sort of thing with him, except
no, it was Ryujin.
Ryujin, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
I got my names mixed up, but yeah, it's there's always that dark horse factor, which is one of the fun things about fighting games, at least, because you never know when somebody's just going to come out of the...
Oh, most definitely. We had one of those at Winter Brawl, too. It was like a 13-year-old kid playing Viola, who everyone, before that tournament, everybody was on the bandwagon. Viola's low tier, pick up a new character, blah, 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 blah. Then the 13, 14-year-old kid shows up and makes it to winners finals, like, of the tournament. Forget about pools. Winners finals of the tournament. Like, what?
Wow, that's pretty random. Well,
that kid reminds me a lot of Wink.
That's the one thing I'm looking forward to more than anything. No, I think that's the one thing I'm looking forward to of like players more than anyone. It's the random guy that's going to show up that we've never seen or heard of before, and he's going to show up and say, "Yeah, I figured this out. I have a totally new brand of character X. Want to see it? Winners finals."
Winners finals. Oh, funny. And sorry, who did you? I missed that name. You say Link? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, I was saying that kid reminded me a lot of Link back in the day. Whenever like he just like exploded onto the scene with Ivy like back in Caliber 2 and was like beating everybody when he was 14.
I guess I missed that, but
yeah, Link definitely did that. And he has a lot of the same fundamentals. Like, the kid has pretty good reaction time. He's got pretty good Yomi. I mean, his mind games are on point. He's not being, like, predictable. He's being predictable to a point, but when you start to punish him, he will adapt from that point. So I see the makings of a top player in that kid. We'll see how it goes.
Nice, very nice. Well, kind of build off that, we're talking about all these players, real people and whatnot. But based on, like, all of the tournament results that we've had thus far, so what sort of characters are, like, jumping out to you as regardless of whether you think they're top tier, low tier, or whatever? Like, what are all the characters that you're seeing as, I don't know, I guess you could say popular, but that feels like a bad word in this particular case. But because, like, I know that we're seeing a lot of Natsus, seeing a lot of Alpha, Pyrrha. I know there's a bunch of Pyrrhas out there, a lot of Lei Shay. But who, like, if you were to have to pick, like, the top 6 or 7 characters,
Lei Shay.
Like, what would they be?
As in terms of popularity or in terms of how good they are?
Well, I guess it's up to you, however you want to approach the question. Because typically, tiers, you have the theory fighting tiers, and then you have the actual result tiers. Where these characters are top tier because everyone's winning.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll just leave it as an open-ended question if you want to address who you think the top characters are, but go from there.
All right. Well, let's start with the paper tier. The paper tier definitely puts Alpha Patroclus and Cervantes up top, namely because Alpha Patroclus gets absurd amounts of damage, and he has the most damaging grabs in the game, and grabs are 50-50s. It's not like Tekken where you can see the hands and just be like, oh, I'm going to break everything. And they're definitely like the S tier on paper. And then Natsu's up there with them as well. And I think the paper tier after that starts to look like Maxi and Omega Pyrrha, probably both the Pyrrhas, because they have the punish games. Like this, her stab is bar none the best punisher in the game, so it really gets in the way of characters. It helps to limit the moves that they can use. But when it comes to results, it doesn't really look like that because, like, for example, Maxi, he's really good on paper, but his range not so good. So he has to get in there, and while he can whiff punish and his movement is good, you have to have, like, the spacing down for the matchups where the range where, all right, I want to backstep from here, I want to sidestep here, and then from this range, I just need to block because he's going to fuck me up. And then Alpha Patroclus especially feels like a paper tier right now because his execution is next level compared to everything else in the game. Yeah, it's like Alpha Patroclus. Like, Cervantes has really tough execution because you need to hit IGDR like it's on a button. But at the same time, that's a just frame. And with Alpha, you have to get like 4 or 5 different ones for a single combo. It's pretty silly.
Yeah, absolutely. And
one thing that I really feel like, and actually I got to give KDZ props for pointing this one out, I feel like Alpha Patroclus players, they don't have the same kind of Yomi because they're too used to, like, practice mode. I'm just going to push buttons. And it, like, they get too focused on pushing buttons and not focused enough on getting in your head. And I feel like that kind of detracts from what the players bring. And then, like, when it starts to come to, like, the top playable, like, the top results characters, I mean, Maxi's up there, because if you're good with Maxi, you're just, like, I mean, he's really good once he gets going. So he's one of those characters where you can dominate him, but then once he gets in there and he makes you block certain things, he has the potential to guess right 5 or 6 times and just kill you. Like, he's just got that oppressive offense.
He does so much damage.
Leisha, yes, Maxi damage. Oh my god. Maxi damage. Like, if you get counter hits in the right, like, you learn how to bait people in the right spots and get those counter hits, he's going to do, like, I mean, he'll spend a bar of meter, but he's going to do, like, 60% damage. Like, counter hit your face off.
His 4-4-B counter hit is, like, pretty much, like,
oh, god.
You're getting right out.
You should not be hitting that move. Yeah, that's... It ends with the face punch. I love face punches.
Dude, who doesn't?
And then Leisha actually ends up, like, on paper, she is pretty low tier because her damage is bad. But she's a mix-up character, so it's like she's going to hit you, she's going to force a 50-50 on you, and but the thing about Leisha, why I feel like she's doing so well, is she is really intuitive to the old school players. Like, the reason I started playing her was I just started tooling around with the cast, and she was the character that felt natural to me. Like, I feel like Leisha really benefits from, like, the legacy experience of playing previous Soul Calibur games, much more so than other characters.
You know, I'm not going to claim to be a Calibur expert or anything, but while I was watching Final Round and watching Mick play and RTD, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, they're playing this character exactly how you would play it in Calibur 2. And it's like, I know there's more to it. I know there's more to the character, but...
Yeah,
so,
most definitely.
Aside from those guys, what characters do you think are going to make a run here? Like, the characters that are good, but for whatever reason no one's playing right now, but you see people picking them up here in the future.
I feel like Viola is going to constantly get better because there's just too much depth to the character. Like, she's got so many different options that they're just going to... Someone's going to figure it out. And then there are some characters that I really see a low, like, there's a real low player base for them, like Tira, Hildy, Zwei, and no, I think that'd probably be about it for the ones that I'm really looking forward to seeing when people just main them up and what they can do. Oh, Patroclus, regular Patroclus. Because regular Patroclus is one of those guys who, he looks like a paper top tier, but his range is so bad that people are just scared to play him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What would be the big difference?
Yeah, you're saying?
Between alpha and just regular. But
the difference between alpha and regular Patroclus.
I mean, in that
night and day.
In that sort of mindset.
They're
why would you play him? But...
Well, yeah. I mean, no. The main thing of the main weakness that people are saying about regular Patroclus is they're scared of infinite stages. Because typically, Calibur turns, like, when you play the shorter range character, it becomes a game of position. It's like, all right, I can't beat you in the range game, but if you're going to constantly backstep, I can manipulate the position and turn your backstepping into you walking into a corner. And once you talk about infinite stages, that's just not a possibility. You're forced to just run up and deal with what they're going to throw at you. And... that's tough. That's very intimidating when you don't really understand the way the characters work. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of characters that once it comes around Evo, it's really going to change the way the game plays because people are going to understand the spacing of the game better. So you're going to see short range characters, and then Raphael especially. I feel like Raphael is a very solid character, but he's tough to make work because you want to try and poke people from mid-range. And if you don't have the spacing down for the matchups, you could very easily just get murdered. Because you get that one range wrong, and then, bam, counter hit, maxi damage. Oh God, that just does 2 Raphael combos.
Just this is a question just from me personally, but what about Algol? Like, that's the one character that I feel like, for whatever reason, because he's a boss character, that people should be playing him and he's not banned. So what is the deal? Like, why is nobody playing this character?
Algol is one of the most intriguing characters in the game. It's kind of tricky to wrap your head around it because it all comes down to his meter management, because he has the only two-bar super in the game, and it does over half-life by itself.
And a ton of ways to
the way meter generation works. Yeah, it's free everywhere. There are many players who are quoted as saying, if I have 2 bars with Algol, there's no way I'm going to lose that round. All right? But the thing is, overall, his damage is subpar. Like, where your average characters are hitting for 80, 90 damage, he's hitting for 40-some damage. It's like Leisha damage, except he doesn't have the mix-up game to follow it up with. He's just like, all right, I'm going to hit you with a combo, and then we're just going to kind of get reset where I have advantage, and I can just try and walk up and do something. But it's not like you're stuck in this wake-up situation like where you really don't have any good options. So, but if he uses Brave Edge moves, like EX moves, his damage shoots up to that 80-90 damage range, where he's doing damage comparable to the rest of the cast. So it seems like there are kind of two distinct styles you could play him as, where on one hand, you could try and win out a couple of rounds and build up your bar and just use subpar damage by not burning EX moves. And then when you get your 2 full bars, you win a round. Or you could try and play him like everyone else, like your average character, where you're just like, all right, I hit him, I got my combo, I'm going to spend my half bar, and I'm going to do damage so I can keep up with my opponent. So it ends up being really interesting, and in all honesty, I can't tell you how it's going to play out. There's just too much depth to the character to just pin him on a strategy and say, this is the way this guy's going to play. And I'm really excited to see what people are going to do with that guy come like EVO or like MLG or any kind of major.
Yeah, because
there's going to be a major where there's going to be some breakout algol nonsense.
Yeah, and that's what I'm waiting for as well, because I just feel like, this character has been banned before, and now he's no longer banned. So who's going to step up and try to win with him? And I don't know. I'm anxious to see it because you don't get those situations.
Yeah, well, no, it's a very interesting character.
So what is your opinion then on, speaking of banned characters, of DJ? Do you ever think, because I know like when the game first came out, people were like...
he's the most broke shit in the game. Bar none.
See, because I'm curious why.
There's no doubt in my mind. Let me tell you something. I have a plan. Here's what it comes down to. You know how he's got the attack throw after Thunder Godfist?
Sure, yeah.
If he does crouch dash with A, he does a thing. That rings out. Not only does it ring out, it rings out over walls that allow ring outs over them. So, and he gets it free like everywhere. Like if you have half a bar, well, first of all, if you're a big character, he can just do electric Thunder Godfist. And if he hits you with that, on I want to say about half the stages, you just lost a round. Like from the starting position. You can just like sidestep you with something, electric, Thunder God, you're dead. Ring out, goodbye. And then if you have half a bar, if you EX it comes out much faster and it becomes free in all sorts of combos. So it's just, I feel like that is the most imbalanced move in the game. Especially considering it doesn't require a risk. It's not like you have to randomly throw out a Thunder Godfist and hope it lands. No, there are like a dozen different combo situations off like step kill. It's like, all right, I'm just going to do step kill. You step off, free Thunder Godfist. I could ring you out if I'm in the right position. Or I could do meterless like 80-90 damage by doing like 2-3 electrics. It's like, what?
I remember
that, and Hell Sweep is dumb.
Hell Sweep is always dumb.
It's like, I mean, I understand that it's a good move, but the way Soul Calibur in this game is balanced, no one has that kind of strong 50-50. Like Mitsurugi classically has that strong 50-50. Now he has to spend meter to get that. Devil Jin doesn't need meter to do that. He doesn't need meter for anything except ring out bullshit. It's just, no. But yeah, once I see him being unbanned at some kind of major tournament, I'm just going to make a video. I'm going to be like, here's a whole bunch of Devil Jin bullshit. Go make this tournament such an ugly mess that no one will ever want to unban him again.
Oh, man,
that is my plan.
Well, it's good to know the Thunder Godfist thing, because like day one, there was somebody who was telling us that there was some sort of crazy ring out stuff, and originally he said it was 2-2B, which is the sidestep 2 in Tekken, but it's just a huge like launcher thing, and
you can do that in the Thunder Godfist, no meter.
Yeah, you can do it into Thunder Godfist, but like he kind of made it out to sound like that was the ring out move, and we were like, what the hell are you talking about? Like it doesn't ring out over high walls. I have no idea what you're talking about. So okay, a little knowledge for myself that Thunder Godfist is retarded. Oh man. But I just think so.
Oh my god, that move is dumb.
Okay, so that's good to know that DJ never being unbanned because he's busted. But so in the Creative Soul thing, like I mean, all of that stuff kind of seems goofy as is. So I wouldn't really expect DJ, since he is a created character. to ever be unbanned. But I was just curious, what the thoughts were on that, and if maybe you saw that changing in the future.
Yeah. Or it would just be DJ. It would just be the DJ game. He'd be the next Hildy. Nobody liked Hildy. People still don't like Hildy. That's why she doesn't get any play. It's like everyone has that prejudice, like no one likes Hildy while you're playing that bitch.
Regardless of whether she's good or not. Everyone just doesn't like her at this point.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be that good in this game, but at the same time, it's hard to say that because no one's really playing her. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, she looks pretty good.
Somebody, there's going to be another tournament. There's going to be breakout Hildy nonsense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There always is. It's usually Evo. Everyone's all secretive and blah, blah, blah until you get to Evo, and then everyone's cat is out of the bag.
Yeah.
And you see all this crazy, ridiculous stuff.
Save it for Nationals,
yep.
Man.
That's what everybody does. But speaking of, like, the broken stuff, I wanted to ask about this because I remember reading Hate's article not too long ago about QS4G, and I wanted to know your opinion on it because, Billy and I, we come from the Caliber 2 days where it was all the step guard, it was all 2G, you could block everything from anywhere, whatever, and, it really doesn't bug us all that much. Like, I don't know, it just seems like you kind of have to shift away from the mix-up into the guard break game. So I don't know, it doesn't bug us nearly as much as it seemed to bug Hate, that's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely bottlenecks your options. Well, no, that Hate's article was it was a bit overdramatic, but I think he just wanted to make sure that people got on, like, Daishi's Twitter and were just like, we don't like this, get it out of our game. And I have it, we should be seeing a patch. I hope we see a patch. Judging by what, I had an interview with Daishi at NEC when we were playing the beta, and he was saying that they didn't want to they wanted to wait like 6 months to patch, but if there was some kind of game-breaking glitch, such as Quickstep 4G, they would patch it as soon as they had an answer. So I'm hoping that within a month or two we could see a patch, not necessarily a balance patch, but a get glitches out of our game patch. That being said, even with Quickstep 4G, it's still a very playable game. It's not something you can spam as far as I can know. So, and it requires timing. So it's kind of like 2G in that, like, if you played Caliber 2, you should know, like, there were mix-ups where if you did, like, a 4G parry, you would get extra frames in the post-GI window, and you could mix up between different timings of attacks to mess with the 2G timing. And there are still mix-ups that you could do, even in that situation, that would mess with the opponent, and there would be similar mix-ups with Quickstep 4G, because there's the same element of execution where you have to do the 4G right when the attack's about to hit you. So it's, while Hate, like, the article was overdramatic, and I feel like it did what it had to do, and the developers are like, okay, we should patch this. But in the interim, I don't feel like it's going to lame the game out, because there's still ways to kill step. There are still plenty of things. Like, the number one step killer for a lot of people is just grab. Quickstep 4G does nothing against grabs. And amongst other things, like, everyone is still going to have multiple tools that aren't affected by Quickstep 4G. And naturally, it's going to be a more restrictive environment. You're not going to be able to use all the different buttons that you want. But the glitch isn't going to give you no answer. It's not going to be one of those end-all, be-all, like, oh, you just do this and that is the answer. It's like, no, that is not the answer. There are still going to be ways to stop people from stepping. And, like, the gameplay has been like, people knew about Quickstep 4G. Did you see a lot of Quickstep 4G final round in top 16? Not at all. I don't remember seeing it once.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up, because it seems like it is good, but as if you're the user of you're the defender, let's say, and you use Quickstep 4G, like, it still feels to me like, because of the way that the system is just as it is. Like when you do a quick step 4G, you're not sidestepping nearly as far as you normally would. Well, although it depends on when you cancel and do the 4G. But if you commit to that 4G, you're committing to blocking. So if you want a sidestep kill, like you mentioned earlier when we were talking about Devil Jin, it's hard to do that with quick step 4G because you're not going as far laterally. You're committing to blocking whatever they do. So that's kind of like the way that I thought about it. Is like, you know, it helps you in being able to block everything, but if your main tool as a defensive player is to make your opponent whiff, it doesn't really help you in that respect. But I don't know. It's you know, it's one of those things where I think it's still early.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, it brings me back to I have to give the developers props on making a beautiful game engine, because even like you could even bring this back to the option select jump, which you probably think of it as fuzzy guard, but it's I'm not going to get into the specifics on why that's a misnomer. But like that, in theory, it makes low mid mix-ups non-existent. But if you start sitting there and trying to rely on it, you're just standing there blocking. You're either going to get, like, if you try and do that, it's just like quick step 4 guard, where if you're you can do it and it is more effective than like a sidestep or guessing with a jumping attack or something. But if you use it predictably, there are a multitude of ways within the game where you can be like, oh, you're just going to stand there blocking. I'm going to destroy your guard meter. Or if you're going to do that, I'm just going to take 50-50 grabs all day. Like Siegfried, for example. Siegfried, in theory, gets destroyed by that option select jump because his stance mix-ups are gone. But what it comes down to is if you're just going to sit there throwing out option selects, he could just stance cancel and grab, and that's it. Now you're just sitting there, sitting away, popping your option select off, and now every time he goes into stance, you're giving him a free grab.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm glad that you mentioned Siegfried, because that's a really good example. Like I couldn't have picked a better example than that Siegfried example, because that's exactly what it is. I mean, there's ways around it. It's not totally game breaking busted, but
yeah. But the thing is, people, they're always gonna knee jerk, in that they're gonna see, oh, I can't play this, I can't do this the way I want to do it. It's got to be broken. It's like, no, you just sit on it for a week, think about it, figure out, like, there are ways past this. It's just not your intuitive answer. You have to get a little bit past that. And then once you start doing that, it's something like, you know, like quick step 4 guard, or like the option select jump. Like, it's good, but it's not that good. Like, it's not one of those things where it leaves you with just no answer.
Well, man, I'm starting to run out of like questions and stuff here. But I think we're covering a lot, and for any players who are just starting to get into Caliber, and I think we've kind of given them some knowledge and whatnot. So I kind of want to start to wrap up the podcast with this kind of general question. So based on what you've seen so far in Caliber 5, and, you know, we've mentioned some specifics about what you want changed with the game, but what do you think, what would you like to see happen here in the coming months? And I guess you can go beyond Evo if you want to, but like, what sorts of things do you want to see? What sort, like, from the community and developments, and what's optimistically picture perfect scenario? What do you see happening over the next couple of months?
Next few months, I feel like in the community, I almost want to say every character is going to have some kind of breakout tournament. I have yet to see, like, there are some paper tiers where they're like, oh, this character is unwinnable, blah, 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 blah. But then it's like, it comes down to almost like how you approach the tech, and it's like, yeah, well, you know, this character has, like, 3/4 of his move list is bad. But you know what? If you, like, use that quarter that's left over and you just apply it intelligently, you could still win. And I feel like even characters like Aeon and like Zwei, people are writing that character off so quickly. I don't see how they do that. There's so much depth to the character. I mean, there are going to be, like, if people keep ignoring Zwei, somebody's going to show up at Evo and just rape all the people who were like, he's not good, he's not good. You know why? Because they haven't played against the character. They talked everybody out of playing him. And now, whether or not he's that bad, they're going to get their skulls crushed. And, yeah. But and as far as the community goes, in all honesty, it's looking beautiful. I mean, there's more interest in the game than we've ever seen before. Every tournament I've gone to, I've talked to people, and they're like, yeah, that game really looks interesting. I think I'm going to pick it up. I think I'm going to start playing it. And, I mean, one thing I would like to see from people is go reach out to locals. Find people near you. Like, go get on forums, go on SRK, go on 8-Way Run, go on whatever forums you're on. See if you can find people to play locally and get a scene going, because that's where it's at. You get your local scene, you train up with your buddies, then you road trip to tournaments. I've had more fun doing that than doing, like, anything. Most of anything, but I'm not going to go into all that nonsense.
Well, that's a...
And yeah, I mean, Evo, I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen in Evo. I can't even call it, because between the paper tiers and, like, what people are doing with characters, like, nobody in their right mind was predicting Nightmare was going to win 2 majors in the first month and a half. Like, Nightmare won the French major, Nightmare won final rounds. Nightmare was nowhere to be seen at Winter Brawl. Nowhere at all. And, like, nobody's predicting that. Nightmare on paper, he looks really bad. Like, honestly, like, you look at Nightmare's stuff on paper, it's like, his pokes are really bad. His throws have a lot of range, but they don't do much damage at all. And, like, the only thing he has going for him is good movement. But you know what? When you have ass tons of range and really good normal hit damage, good movement goes a long way. And especially with the position game, because you use the movement, you start controlling the ring, and then you get to capitalize on Nightmare's ring out game, which is really good. His wall damage is extraordinary. And all of a sudden, you take the low tier on paper, and in a match, he's just a beast. Like, I mean, sure, pushing buttons is like, he kind of hemorrhages life as he does that, but once he guesses right, he more than makes up for it. So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say what's going to come Evo. I'm just excited to watch.
Yeah, it'll be really fun.
Yeah,
I unfortunately,
yeah, that's kind of it.
I won't be able to make it out to Evo this year. I was there last year, but just because of things, I won't be able to make it out this year. But I'm still very, very much interested to see who pops out of nowhere, what sorts of characters they're using. It's usually always a fun time just watching the matches at Evo and the crazy drama and stuff that happens with it.
Yes.
But well, oh, God, I'm like...
Oh, I love Evo. That's like my favorite event ever. Like, I don't think I've competed since '09, but I've been there every year since.
Yeah, I want to say, I can't even remember when my first Evo was. I know that, well, my first Evo, it actually wasn't in Vegas at the time. They were still doing it out in Cal Poly. But, like, it was... Yeah, it kind of... I don't even know, like, how to describe it. Like, it's definitely something that you should go to at this point, like, at least in my career. It's one of those things where it's, like, so big that I'm like, been there, done that sort of deal. But it's still fun if you go for Vegas and they hang out with people and get some games in. But it almost feels just like a huge convention now. So it's kind of weird. But if you've never been, though, for anyone out there listening, definitely go. It's something that you should experience at least once.
You have to go.
For sure.
Oh my God, that was so amazing.
Yeah, I went to my first Evo back in 2003. I think it was the first year that Caliber. No, it was the second year that Caliber was there. And that was just tons of fun.
Well, man, feel like I'm zapped out of questions. Anything that you have, Billy, that you wanna bring up and discuss, or?
I do have a question for you, Bibulus, kind of a throwback here. Whatever happened to XSC2? I believe that guy's name was Andrew.
All right, Andrew. I know that guy. I still keep in touch with him. He has real life. I'm pretty sure I forget if he's in law school or med school, but he is definitely on the verge of a doctorate in whatever it is. working on his PhD, and he doesn't really have the time. And every time I ask him to get back into the competitive scene, he says something along the lines of, "I've done enough raping in Soul Calibur to last a lifetime."
I just remember meeting him back whenever they did the East Coast versus Midwest thing that WC Maxi put together, and talked to him a little bit. It was
my
cool.
God, that tournament was amazing.
Yeah, I think I actually met you there, but that was like 12.
That was the greatest winners finals ever.
That was Andrew.
You remember the winners finals from that tournament?
That was Andrew and Harry, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was amazing. Andrew lost like 8 straight rounds. He almost lost in straight rounds, and then he just was like, "No, I will not lose." And I remember there was at least like 4 or 5 rounds where he was like one pixel of life away from being in the loser's bracket, and he's just like, "No, I will just guess right every single time," until I was like, "Ah."
I do remember that tournament quite well. It was like my first tournament I went to where I actually knew how to play the game. So it was pretty nice, and that's where I first met like Heart Nana now, and then Wits back in the day, and we got to hang out and became pretty good friends back then.
Oh, fucking Heart Nana.
Those guys are cool.
Yeah, he's
fun times.
He's full-blown Japanese now. He comes back once a month, or once a year.
Once a year, yeah.
Like it never shows up, but that's how it is, though. But that's why we get new players. That's why new games come out, so that people can show us up and show us old fogies how to really do stuff.
I'll see about maybe getting Rob on the show, since I'm pretty close to that kid these days. So.
Does he play Calibur? I thought he was like all about the BlazBlue shit.
No, yeah, he plays Calibur. He's like I think he recently just won like a Japanese qualifier for like some Calibur 5 tournament that they're going to be having relatively soon.
That'll be interesting. We need to get him in the States so that get him to a major in like Evo or something, so that he can show people what's up.
I'm sure he'll be at Evo probably. He usually comes all the time.
Yeah, so. Love to play that guy.
Oh man.
Yeah, I see him like every year at Evo.
Yeah, like whenever I see Rob, we usually like back in the day, like me and Rob and another couple of our friends played this really terrible Naruto game for GameCube. We traveled all around for that, but everywhere we went, we just played Soul Calibur 2 instead of playing anything else.
So it goes. Oh man, And was that it, Billy? Did you have any other questions or any other topics that we can discuss before we let people?
No, I think Tim covered pretty much everything. So,
all right.
So far, in the future, maybe.
In the future, maybe. Okay, so I do have to ask this kind of before we end everything, Tim. I actually haven't seen any videos of you playing. What character are you playing right now?
Right now I'm playing Lei Xia, but I don't know. I'm still kind of shopping around. Like, I hate the idea that Lei Xia is like all the old schools are just like go-to button Lei Xia. So I've been kind of shopping around for a new character. I'm still not sure. Like, there's a few I'm toying around with. Like, Tira intrigues me. And Maxi, KDZ's keep telling me I should play Maxi. Then the Atlanta guys are telling me I should play Omega Pira because I always rocked Sophie back in the day. Like, I was known for Sophie in 3.
Well, you played Astaroth in 2.
Siegfried, I really want to play Siegfried, but I played Astaroth. It depends what point in 2. Like, in 2, my tournament characters were either Zhonghua, Astaroth, or Nightmare. I played Nightmare like when I first started, and then I brought it back for like I want to say the last 2 years of competitive play. But back in the East Coast Midwest, I was definitely Astaroth.
Yeah, I
was my Astaroth phase. Yes, that was that. I actually learned a really valuable lesson that tournament because I thought like the way to go was to rip the top player strategy. So I got this video of Semi, who you guys probably remember, and no one else will. It was like Semi versus like a bunch of players that we had recorded when he was on the East Coast. So I got the video. I was like, I'm going to steal all this guy's setups. I'm going to do all his options and all this nonsense. And like I went to loser's bracket, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to play Astaroth how I play Astaroth. And then after I got home from that, I think that's when I went back to Nightmare. And I was just like, to hell with it. I'm playing Nightmare. This is the character I want to play. I'm going to make it work my way. And then, yeah, that was it. But before then, there was a lot of Zhonghua, because Zhonghua was amazing. 3A, fuck your step guard.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Semi, because I'd like to see him come back and play Astaroth in this game, because the Astaroth in 5 reminds me a lot of Astaroth in 2. So.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. I heard he's got a lot of beef with the SoCal community now. So
What beef?
I don't know how well that would go for him.
Did he like kick somebody's dog with that?
You know what? If at this point, I'd be like, it's a story from a story from I heard from a guy. So I don't want to put it out there like that. Gotcha. But people really don't like that guy, from what I've heard.
Dude, he's just repping the Lakewood crew.
Well, you'll have to keep me
I guess
in the know then on what character you're playing, so that way when we get to that character for this series, I can give you a ring and you can tell everybody what the fuck is up and how to play the character and all your opinions. It'll be a little interesting
I'll do my best
once we start doing that, because obviously you have the Bible out there right now that is pretty much hands down one of the best strategy guides, at least competitive strategy guides ever written. So it'll be interesting to get.
Yes and no.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where it'll be interesting to get a top player or somebody who really knows the character and get their opinions on what the Bible has to say, and tell everybody how they think the character is and whatnot. So, because I'm sure it'll stir up a little bit of a debate when we get to that point. People are like, well, the Bible says this, and I've said blah, blah, blah. So it'll be interesting, if nothing else.
The Bible is really good from a beginner standpoint, and it also has what I would say is, bar none, the best primer for new players to learn the game. Like if you have no idea what the systems in Soul Calibur work or how they function in synchrony, like together, you should get the Bible. You should read the opening nonsense of the Bible, because it is amazing. But a lot of the specific stuff, it changed because they wrote the Bible on a beta version of the game. They weren't making it on the release copy. Mm-hmm. So the frame data is spotty. There's a lot of inconsistencies once you get into like the meat and potatoes. Or once you get into the specifics, but the general stuff is really good. It's a great way to get into the game, but the Bible is far from the end-all, be-all. Like, if you treat it like the Bible, you will not be happy in the end. You're going to go to a tournament, you're going to be like, oh, I guess that doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I guess that's how it is with all things. Well, it is good to see that at least, Namco seems dedicated enough to the game that they're willing to change things and they're willing to patch it and update it. So that bodes well, at least for the competitive community. So okay, so just as a more general thing, this really has nothing to do with Soul Calibur, but it's a pretty big issue, I guess, with everybody right now. So just kind of some background for everyone listening who may not know anything about this, but so there's this thing going on called Cross Assault, and it's a Street Fighter X Tekken. I don't even know what you want to call it. It's a show, but kind of not really a show. It's anyway. It's a little tournament thing where they do I don't even know stuff. They play the game, but they have little fucking what do you want to call them, like challenges and whatnot. And there was a little bit of a harassment issue that was brought up because of Eris. And even if you're like Soul Calibur and Soul Calibur only, you probably still know who Eris is. He's the host of Avoiding the Puddle, a guy's own website, pretty well known throughout SRK and Calibur and TZ and whatnot. And it's kind of a big issue, so thought we should bring it up just a little bit to discuss it, since people have some pretty intense feelings towards this topic. So I guess since you are our guest, Bibulus, I'll throw it out to you first. So what is your view on how this whole thing went down, and I guess just your opinion on the whole Cross Assault and the harassment issue And I think most people are making it out to be an argument about the foundation of, shit talking and where it is in the fighting game community and what place it has. So I'll just throw it at you, and wherever you want to take it, we can go.
Okay. There are a couple of things you have to realize when you start to handle this subject. Like, first of all, what he did, Aris fucked up. Like, no, bar none. Like, I mean, I'm just basing this off the day one footage that I've watched, where they had like the highlight reel of sexual harassment on day one footage, and like, in all honesty, like the first, I want to say that like the video is probably like 15 minutes, and for like the first 10 minutes or so, I'm like, that isn't that bad. Like, she's laughing it off. Like, they're taking it in stride, but then it got to the point where she's literally like, "Get away from me!" And it's like, that has to send up the red flag. Like, you're walking on thin ice, and like when she's like that's like you looking down and seeing water coming up through the ice. It's like, this isn't going to end well. Like, you need to have that red flag. But at the same time, I feel like she could have handled it better herself. Because, like, when you bring it back to the arcades, like, the fundamentals of what's going on, people in arcades, they're going to push your buttons until you make it known. And the only way, like, the easiest way to get through to someone as bullheaded as Eris, you just pop off on it. Just be like, "Get the fuck away from me. I really don't appreciate that. And if you get close to me like that again, I'm going to slap you in the face." Like, you have to, like, take the bull by the horns and be assertive. Like, you really need to, like, because if you notice in the fighting game communities, in general, if you lay down, they will walk all over you. But if you stick up for yourself, if you give back what they're throwing at you, then you start to develop that rapport, and you could start to handle things. But at the same time, I feel like the show could have handled it better. Like, there should have been someone for her to talk to if she didn't want to pop off on Aris. Like, if that's not her thing, because that's not everyone's thing. Like, if that's not her thing, there needs to be a hierarchy where, like, she can go up to the guy in charge and be like, this has to stop. It's just uncomfortable for me. It's just not what I signed on for. And, like, this is just disrespectful. It's sexual harassment, and I could sue someone if I really wanted to. I mean,
that was my initial, like, first question. Like, where the hell are the people running this thing? Like, where are the intermediaries that are supposed to resolve these sorts of issues? Like, it's like Capcom just handed a bunch of gamers money and said, "Record your stuff." Like, what?
I mean, I kind of get it from their perspective, because, I mean, you have to imagine they put Aris on there to bring drama. Like, it's supposed to be a reality show. Reality shows are centered around drama. Like, they brought Aris out there for drama, because there's no way Aris has the technical know-how to actually coach people how to win in a 2D game. Like, no offense to you, Aris, if you're listening, but you're a 3D guy. You've never, like, as far as I know, you've never done anything in any kind of 2D scene. You don't belong telling people how to play 2D games. So the only reason I see him on the show is they wanted him to start shit. They got what they asked for. They just didn't think it was going to blow up that hard. Because, I mean, if you look at it, from what I can tell, no one really raised a stink about it until towards the end. Like, once she actually dropped out of the competition, it was just like, then all of a sudden, everybody's talking about it. There's, like, sexual harassment highlight videos on YouTube. And, like, the whole situation got blown out of proportion. And at that point, you're past the point of no return. I mean, I don't know. I really don't see how the people running the show, besides, like, making it known that if you have issues with people that you don't want to be vocal about on the show, you can come to us and you can talk about it and whatnot. Besides extending that kind of invitation, I don't see how the guys running it are supposed to, because it seemed like, for the most part, she was playing along with it. Like, unless you happen to catch those specific points in, like, what I want to say, like, we're talking about maybe a minute's worth of time in, what were they, streaming 12 hours a day? I mean, if you don't catch those couple of points in time it seems like she's trying to laugh it off and take it in stride. And at that point, I mean, what you're gonna like pop off on Eris because he's being Eris? Like, I mean, someone has to say something.
That was
whether it's
Well, yeah, to me the whole situation, like personally, other than the highlight videos and the little clips and the stuff, I personally have not watched any of Cross Assault because it's not interesting to me. I really don't care. And then all of a sudden, it started to blow up, so I started to hear about it. But there were two main concerns for me when this whole thing kind of went off. We already talked a little bit about it, like where is Capcom during all this, or where are the people who are actually supposed to be structuring this whole reality TV show? Because even when MTV does their fucking real life and stuff, there's people there in case something crazy happens, and you have some sort of legal issues. So it's like where are those people? And like that's one thing that like really confuses me, and one thing that I think a lot of people are kind of ignoring is that Eris was, you're exactly right. I believe that Eris was brought on to bring the drama, and to bring the drama he did. But and I don't think Capcom realized what kind of a PR nightmare that it is kind of turning into because of the whole sexual harassment thing. And if you're trying to grow a community and grow sales or however you want to look at it, sexual harassment is the last thing you want to be involved in. So. And there was actually a little bit of a thing on Final Round. There was during one of the commentaries for Soul Calibur, and it wasn't you and Hades, it was the other two that I actually mentioned before. One of the guys made a comment about, I don't know if he was talking about an actual person or a character in the game, but he said something along the lines of, get back in the kitchen sort of thing. And that Spooky was all fucking over him. It took half a second. He was like, nope, you need to knock that shit off. Don't say it again. And it was kind of an awkward 30 seconds on the stream, but I mean, that's how serious it is. And I think people, have their own opinions about whether the shit talking is good, legit, is it part of the community, whatever. And that's fine. Everyone does the shit talking thing, but Capcom, Namco, they're not going to sponsor anybody who's spouting off sexual harassment and comments like that. So despite what your opinion on it may be, you have to be careful about what you say. And I think that's the one thing that they underestimated when they started this whole reality show. But
yeah,
well, I don't know.
It's
a PR issue.
Like, that was actually me, and I've said that before because people keep throwing like, it was. It definitely was. And the Zeba's win quote is like, now go and get me steam buns. Lots of them. It's just like, it kind of begs the interpretation, and I ran with it, and it's been done. I did that a couple times before, but people are so sensitive over the sexual harassment thing. Like, in retrospect, it's a very tasteless thing to do. It's definitely not the kind of image I would like to put forth, and I've apologized for that a couple of times already. And I actually apologized for it before Spooky told me to apologize for it. Yeah, that definitely happened. And
I
then,
do remember.
that definitely happened. I'm not gonna lie, and you get past it, and now I'm just going to put Eris on blast when that happens. It's like, with win quotes like that, it's no surprise Zeba was denied his Cross Assault coach application. Yeah. There are other ways you could spend
that's
I don't know, it's a learning
it's definitely
somewhat.
It's a weird, complicated situation, and mostly like the way... My opinion on the whole thing is that I don't really care what you say whatever you want, it's freedom of speech, that whole thing. But I think you should have a little bit of a sense of someone else's comfort level. And if you start to feel like someone, which, obviously Eris apparently doesn't, or just doesn't care. But if you feel like, someone's being made uncomfortable by your comments, you should probably back off. Like, if it's just a random comment on a stream, you know, who cares? In the grand scheme of things, it's not really going to hurt anybody. But if you're constantly badgering somebody, and it's kind of clear that they don't want you to, you should back off. I mean, that's just a common, you know, common piece of respect to do something like that. But
yeah, I really feel like it's not, you're in the right direction, where it's not so much what's said as if you can learn your lesson from it. It's like, I mean, Aris is like, get away from me. It's like, no, he doesn't let up. I definitely need to put forth a better...
No, hold on. I'm going to grab the camera
oh my
and
God,
I'm going to be in your face with it.
Yeah, there's a point where you have to... Exactly. Realize personal boundaries. You have to, like, get a read for people. That's actually what screwed me up on Spooky Stream, because he was like, yeah, all topics are good, just no sexual harassment. And in the realm of everything else is good, it slipped my mind. And, like, yeah, that's probably the only time that's ever going to happen.
No, and it's very weird. And I'm sure that the only reason he mentioned that was, you know, obviously because of the whole cross-assault issue. But, you know, it is... I think that
actually,
as
that
long
was the
as you can say...
thing. The reason I've mentioned that is because that's what people say. Like, that's what people say. Like, at local gatherings, like, all right, I'm not going to put names out there, but there is a Zeba player that I play with on a very regular basis, and every time he does that, he takes the get back in the kitchen, bitch. It's like, really? But he doesn't care. He's got that same Aris part of his brain, which is just like, I don't care. Like, I mean, but at the same point in time, it's like we're a bunch of dudes chilling around, and like in that environment, who cares? But then once you start talking about broadcasting, now it's not a bunch of dudes in a room. There are people who are going to see this and look at it in the wrong kind of light. And it's a lot about knowing your audience and adapting to that.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's the one thing with the whole cross-assault audience is, you know, most of the people watching that are, you know, people who play in the competitive community, so they're like, well, you know, what's the big deal? It's not a huge thing, but, you know, it just put yourself in a work environment. If you were going to go to work, are you going to harass somebody like that? No. Well, you know, everyone's watching you do it, so
you can get fired.
Got to be careful.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. You would definitely get fired, but unfortunately, there's no cross-assault.
You just have to learn. Like, money says Aris has never worked in corporate America.
You know what? I would.
The amount of money Aris has never worked in corporate America.
Yes, that's exactly what I would do. I would definitely be calling my bookie right now. But
no one with a brain would take me up on that bet. Nobody.
Well, I think we kind of beat that topic up. You've been kind of quiet, Billy. Any comments from that?
Well, pretty much everything was said. Yeah, I think it was kind of blown out of proportion. I mean, obviously, I come from the fighting game community where you're the only person that really matters when it comes down to winning or losing. So 99% of the time, you talk shit to someone else, and you know, learning how to play Caliber in the Chicago scene, like the very first time I ever went to Chicago, I knew next to no one. And like every time I got like beat, people were like, I just beat that noob. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks. Or, you know, people would tell me how bad I was. And it's just like, you just don't let it bother you and you keep going.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes to, well, you know, what Tim was saying, whereas, you know, on Cross Assault, she kind of could have been a little bit more aggressive with the way, you know, because she was kind of going with it a little bit, but it's you know, Cross Assault isn't you know, some dudes, you know, like you mentioned, playing in their basement or whatever, so kind of a different thing. But I don't know, it's a weird, complicated mess of stuff, and the fight, you know, actually something that you said, Tim, like a long time ago, like I want to say like right at the beginning of this recording, you mentioned how, you know, the transition from small to big, you know, it's going to be a painful one. We're going to have problems, and you know, we're learning as a fighting game community. We're a smallish, we're a smallish community that's starting to get mid-size, so we have to kind of learn our ropes around the PR ring, as it were. Well, any last comments on that then, Tim?
No, it's been said. I mean, well, actually, all right, I got a last comment. And when it comes to situations like this, I really feel like it's not so much what you did, but how you recover from it. Like, let's see if Aris can go the next year without getting more sexual harassment charges filed against him. And if he could manage that much, then I'm sure he'll be back on the commentary somewhere.
Oh, man. Were there actual charges filed? I didn't see that. If so,
I don't think so. Money says that Capcom has a contract that says if you don't voice beef with us, you can't file suit. Like there is some corporate bullshit that they have in place that's gonna prevent lawsuits from being filed against them. Whether or not something went down between her and him, I really doubt it. I mean, that would be overkill. But
that would be
I don't
a whole
know.
new situation.
I don't know exactly, so I can't say.
Oh,
Yeah. Now we're really blowing it out of proportion. It's like we get restraining orders and people are going to jail and like there's the lawsuit. No, we don't need lawyers.
We've done without lawyers for long enough. Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, and I agree. It's not so much. Well, I won't say there's no fault on what you did, but it is a lot about how you handle yourself after the fact. So, I completely agree. We'll see how what happens over the next year, and see if anybody learns from this incident. Talk shit, but be mindful, I guess, of your surroundings. Well, I guess that was. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it could just comes back to the guys in a basement example. It's like, if you say, bitch, go back to the kitchen, when it's a bunch of guys in a basement, no one's going to take offense. If someone's girlfriend's there, you might want to censor yourself. I mean, but at the same point in time, maybe she's going to take that and she'll roll with it, but I mean, you got to know your audience.
Yeah. I always thought like stuff like this, it's always about accepting the consequences for your actions. Do whatever you want. I don't really care. But, if you're going to call somebody a bitch and then the next day you'll be like, no, I didn't call nobody a bitch. It wasn't a big deal. No, you actually did that.
If you can't own what you did, now you're a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it, you own it. Like, I mean, that's just be a man. Take responsibility for yourself.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think we got that topic. Beat the hell out of that one. So, yeah, I think that's a good final topic to kind of end the podcast on. I do want to kind of continue a tradition with the Tekken podcast that we do. At the very end, I have this little segment that I like to call Sound Off. And since you're a commentator, I have a feeling that this won't be any sort of difficult for you. But pretty much, I want to know what makes you really angry and what pisses you off. I want you to tell the whole world what that is. And it doesn't have to be gaming related. It doesn't have to be Caliber related. It can be anything. But I want to know what makes you mad. Open mic, go.
Stupid people. Stupid people in general. Like the people who just like do the same things and they get stuck on stupid and they're like, no, I'm not going to change because that's the way I do things. That's the way it should work. Blah, 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 blah. Stupid people infuriate me. Okay, I'm done.
Wow, that was really quick. That's like the quickest.
Hey, short and sweet.
Yeah. Stupid people.
So, Tim, in case somebody wants to find you, do you have a Twitter?
I'll actually get angry if I keep going with it. Yeah, you can look me up on Facebook. My name's Tim Fennessy. My Twitter is @BrewtusBibulus. It's a very unintuitive. It's spelled BREWTUS, BIBULUS. Yeah, not the most intuitive spelling, but it is what it is. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Or you can look me up on 8-Way Run. I'm one of the admins. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to get in touch with. Yeah, that's pretty much
awesome.
it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on and chatting with us for a little bit, and hopefully this, this will kind of be a good entry into the Soul Calibur community, and we can get these podcasts going, revving up and whatnot. So other than that, that's really all I have. So thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone out there, if they're looking for some kind of discussion topics or whatever, they'll enjoy the podcast. And that is all I have, kids. Thank you for tuning in. We will, of course, always keep you up to date on what's going on in the future for these podcasts. And once we start to get into the nitty gritty with the character specific ones, we'll of course hook you up with all the top players, because that's what we do, and we're somehow, for whatever reason, good at getting a hold of those people, so you can hear straight from the horse's mouth. But other than that, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.